get to introduce our guest speaker, and I'm super excited because we actually met Willie. I think I met him last year because he actually attended one of our events. He is a former Marine. He was stationed out in Okinawa, and he had actually got started with his real estate investing journey there. He now is in Florida, and one of the things that he came across is, if you can't go to the bank, right, there must be other ways, right, to get after it, and so he did, and he has found so many different ways. And not only did he find them, he's actually doing them right here, right now. And so we asked him to come on and to be able to share not only his knowledge, but if he would like offer maybe some of his deals, like kind of go through a deal that he had and how he went about it using creative financing strategies. And so you guys are in for a treat. I recommend you take out the notepad, take some copious notes, because I think Willie has a lot to share with you guys today. So without further ado, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to turn it over to Willie to take us there.
All right, thank you so much for that introduction. Can you guys all hear me okay? Thumbs up or something?
Yeah, we got you.
Awesome, great. And let me know if my sound gets a little bit off because I'm in a place that doesn't have the best connectivity. Here it is.
And while Willie is getting his screen shared up, just we'll let Willie do the full presentation. If you have any questions, though, feel free as he goes through the presentation to insert your questions in the chat. So when we transition to the Q&A portion, we'll ask your questions then.
All right. Cool. Well, thank you everyone for joining, and so I'm actually really excited to share what I've been doing, and this is a topic that it's really, really near and dear to me and my wife's heart because this is how we acquire so many properties. This is how our business has become successful. So we'll go over the creative financing in 2025. Let me see. Why isn't this thing? Let's see. There we go. So quick disclaimer, I always got to throw that out there. This is just for informational purposes only. I'm not trying to get any type of financial legal advice or say, hey, yeah, go do this, go do that. This is just educational based on personal experiences of what I'm doing now in my business. So what to expect, I'll go over up here what we'll be going over. Like I'll briefly go over about us, about me, my why, and some of the projects that we're doing and different strategies. Then I'll dive into the different strategies and some examples, some real life examples. I'll actually pull back the curtain and I'll even pull up one of my HUD statements, my actually closing statement from this house that I'm sitting in right now. I'm actually sitting on the floor on some flooring because I came over here to check on these guys and my house is too loud to be at because the kids, the dogs. So I was like, all right, well, let me go over here. So what better opportunity to share the actual HUD statement from this closing because we just closed on it last week. And then we can jump into Q&A if you guys like. So a bit about me, as Anne and everyone introduced, I'm a former USMC vet. I was overseas in Okinawa for 10 years. All three of my kids were born over there. My wife's Okinawan. So being overseas in the whole Asia Pacific is very near and dear to me and my family. I always tell people that, hey, I was born and raised in the DC area, but I became a man and actually grew up in Okinawa because that's where I got married. That's where I had the kids. And when I came back to the US, I had a completely different lifestyle and mindset. So we got our first rental property in 2015. And that was, shortly after the market crash in 08, 09. I picked up a property in 2012. But at that time, I didn't know what I was doing. I was in Okinawa, Japan, had some extra cash. I was working as a contractor on base at the time. And that's how I bought my house accidentally. But then we saw that the prices were going up and things were still cash flowing. Interest rates were reasonable. So in 2015, we bought our first official quote unquote rental property intentionally. And then after that, we bought another one. Then we bought some duplexes and we got to the point where we had multiple properties. And we got to the point where, hey, where we're at now, we've got, 6.3 million in property and real estate. And this is just single family, a couple of duplexes and triplex, but these are all properties that we own in our portfolio that we own and operate. We've done well over 100 transactions. You name it, we've done it. Fix and flips, cash out refis, hard money, different creative financing. We've done it all. Now, our why, obviously, why I do what I do. my kids, my family. You can see my daughter there on the top left corner with my parents of composition gymnastics. This picture over here in the top right corner, that was when we were in Japan last year. And then the kids and my wife's family when they came to visit us in 2024. So those are my kids and our dog and my son. Go over some of our before and after projects. This is a property we did here in Destin, Florida. So if anybody's familiar with Destin, it's a beautiful part of the Panhandle, awesome water, amazing beaches. And we bought this completely off market. We actually bought it off a wholesaler, and we used creative financing, whereas we went to hard money lender. So a hard money lender is a strategy that I'll go over. And you can see the after there. And this is exactly how we bought the house. Like we walked in and there was literally just full, just like that, dirty clothes in the hamper there. There was milk still in there. It was a mess. And that's the after. Cleared out the kitchen, completely opened it up. There's the bathroom, completely redid it all to the nines. This is another property we bought, also off market at a deep discount. This one had a lot of issues. This one I learned from a lot because I made some mistakes, some costly mistakes. But yeah, that's the before. Here's the after. You can see it's a beautiful home, nicely manicured, freshly painted. This is the before of the kitchen and the living room. You can see it was completely dated, original from 1987. And we brought it to 2025. Actually, this is 2024 when we sold it. But still, completely opened up the kitchen, all that stuff, everything new. Now I'll go over some strategies, some of my favorite strategies, some that I don't use very often, but these are also creative strategies because now, as you know, in this market that we're in, and with prices going up so much and interest rates being as high as they are, it's kind of hard to get into, whether it's a residential or even a duplex or a triplex. It's just getting harder and harder to buy because the numbers just don't pencil out like they used to. When I first bought in 2012 and 2015, you can easily buy a house with 20% down. And that's what I did traditionally, went to the bank, put 20% down. And at the time, 150, actually $100,000 home, it was like 40, 50,000, 60,000, whatever that is. It was reasonable. You can put a down payment on it and then it would cash flow, and it was cash flowing. But now if you try to buy a house with 20% down, you're putting a huge chunk of money and you're lucky if it cash flows and not losing money because interest rates are high, holding costs are higher, taxes are higher, insurance, everything's just higher. So you got to get creative, right? So house hacking, that's a popular one. I know a lot of folks have done this one. I've done it myself personally when I moved here to this area. My family was still in Louisiana. My company, they relocated me to the Panhandle because I was working at Duke Field. I was a government contractor. And I bought a house. We fixed it up. I was going back home on the weekends. And, in military communities, it's pretty common to rent by the room to different service members. So I actually rented a room from an Army kid. And I say kid because he's probably like 20 some years old. And I rented a room for him for like $700 a month. And then I bought my house and then fixed it up. And since my family wasn't going to come until the following year when the kids were done with school or whatever, I rented out the rooms in my house. I lived in the master. I was only there during the week for work, and then I would drive home 3 hours on the weekends. So I rented out the other rooms and offset my cost. So house hacking is a good way to do that. And what's really cool is that a lot of service members can do this with their VA loan, put no money down basically, buy a rental or like a duplex, or you could even buy a house, a 3-bedroom house. A lot of guys do that here in this area and where we live. We see rooms for rent all the time. Service members always renting out rooms because hey, it helps offset their costs and it gets them in. Another one, oh wait, there we go. Seller financing. Seller financing, and I'm going to go over some terms that you may or may not heard of, but we can go over the Q&A later. So that's why I'm going to try to go through this quicker. Basically, the seller acts like the bank. This can be somebody that owns the house free and clear. Ideally, usually they have free and clear, or they have a lot of equity. Maybe they have a little bit of a mortgage and they have a lot of equity. And you have them owner finance the cash that they would get at closing. So instead of me paying him $200,000 in cash at the end of the closing, they owner finance that to me. And how that works is They get a promissory note and mortgage. They act like the bank. So just like when you go to buy a house, you have to sign a promissory note, mortgage, do all this closing stuff, except this time the seller is acting as the bank. So seller financing is phenomenal because you negotiate directly with the seller. You can do it with no money down. You can do it with you can even do it with zero interest. If they want to take payments, they'll just take monthly payments until they're paid off. There's multiple ways to structure that. Partnering or JV. This is another way to get creative. You don't have the cash. Maybe you don't have the experience, but let's say you have capital, but you don't know what to do with it. You could always partner with somebody. Or maybe you do have the experience and know-how, or maybe you have something of value to bring to the table and you got a friend that wants to get in but doesn't have the time. You could always partner with them and say, hey, you put up the money, I'll do all the work, sweat equity, and then, hey, guess what? We'll split the profits on the back end. So that's JV and partnering. It's common. A lot of folks do it. I've done it once, twice. I've done it a few times. I don't do it very often because there is more risks and also expectations aren't always met. And then folks think that they're going to get more than they thought. And hey, at the end of the day, if there's only $5,000 to split after everybody gets their money, that's all you split. So you share in the losses as well. Retirement funds. Retirement funds is another creative way that many folks don't know that you could actually use your retirement account to buy real estate using none of your own money because it's your IRA's money, your retirement account, right? And it's tax advantage because you would, for example, I've had some guys that roll over their TSP or 401k. They'll move it over to a self-directed IRA custodian. And those custodians are just like Fidelity, Schwab, Edward Jones. They just allow you to invest your retirement funds into alternative assets. You could either buy a house and rent it out, and any of that income that comes in goes back into obviously it will have to go back into your IRA, so it's tax-free, tax-deferred. Or you can loan your money out like private lending. That's what a lot of my private lenders use. They're using their retirement account because they just want that known reliable rate of return. So you can use that. So you could actually use to buy property and operate the real estate or rentals, or you can loan money on it. So there's a lot of things you can do with your retirement account. It's like a whole different presentation in its own. Hard money. Hard money is one of the ways I got started when I first started doing the fix and flips. So I did traditional financing, 20% down with rentals. Then I got to the point where couldn't get no more rentals. I had to start going hard money, or you may have heard the term DSCR, which is a debt service coverage ratio. Those are like a hard money loan, as in they are strictly loaning against the hard asset. They loan against the asset and what the asset's worth, what its income it's producing, or what it's going to be worth when you sell it. So they're very flexible with hard money. Normally you can put very little money down, or you can work with a partner and they put the money down, and before you know it, you have no money into it. So you can do a lot of deals with private hard money. I'm doing a deal right now with hard money. Next week we close on a deal with hard money. So you could use hard money and you could also do private money. There's so many things you can do. What else we got? Private money. This is my favorite. This is my number one source of my number one go-to source for financing is private money, because private lenders, they usually have funds that is not giving them a high rate of return, whether it's money in a bank or a CD money market. They could actually loan that money out to real estate investors, and they get a known rate of return, like what is it called? A fixed rate of return on their money. And they have the collateral of the real estate of the property. So that's a great strategy to use creatively. If you want to buy some properties with none of your money, you use private money, also referred to as OPM, others people's money. Subject to investing. This is my favorite one, the one that I'm doing a lot. And this house that I'm sitting in right now, I purchased it with subject to, and I also use private money. So I do a lot of hybrids. So with subject to is you buy the house with the existing mortgage, with the existing financing in place. So what that means is that the mortgage stays there, you pay whatever it is to the seller, they transfer the property over to you or your entity, but the mortgage remains where it's at. And the mortgage is still in the seller's name. And this, I literally log into Wells Fargo, Shell Point, whoever, and I log in as, Calvin Johnson, who's this house. And I log into there and make the mortgage payments for him. The house is no longer his, it's mine. However, the mortgage debt is in his name. However, we put in different security documentations and instruments to protect him and myself as well, so that, nothing gets triggered, like a due on sale clause, all sorts of stuff. We have all sorts of security instruments that we get put in place to mitigate any risks. So yeah, with subject to, highly recommended if you can do it. However, this is a very advanced strategy. I tell people it's not easy as it looks like on social media. It's not easy as, hey, yeah, let's wholesale some subject to. No, there's a lot of stuff going down right now with wholesalers and investors doing subject to the incorrect way. So you just have to be very cautious when you're doing a subject to. You have to be full transparent, and the seller signs a bunch of disclosures that they know what they're doing. And you have to have a relationship established with that person, because I still have to sometimes call my sellers or text them, hey, what was the code you got? They sent you a code. Or, hey, I need you to endorse this check over to me from escrow, refund, or whatever. So you may be thinking, hey, why would they want to do that? Well, it's because they're in distress. Like this guy, he was in behind on payments, like $43,000. So I paid that off for him. And he no longer has that debt on that. And then he no longer has the debt of the house because I'm servicing that debt for him. So subject to is phenomenal. So here's some properties that I did using different strategies. This one right here was with, oops, sorry, what happened? Oh, I lost my screen. You still see my screen? Okay. This one right here, I used bank loans. So I used a traditional, not traditional, excuse me. This was a local bank loan that gave me what would kind of be considered a hard money loan. It was based off of the asset. And I also brought in private money on second position. So the bank gave me, let's say, 200,000. Can't remember the exact numbers off the top. And then a private lender came in and gave me the rest for the rehab. And at the end, when I sold the house, I paid off the bank and the private lender. Whatever was left over came to us. So with using a hybrid method, none of my own money was in the deal. Here's another one. This is the house that I'm in right now. This one I literally just closed on last Wednesday, Thursday. How are we on time, by the way? We're good? Okay. So this one I wanted to show you real quick. Let me see if I can share my the HUD statement so I can show you how I bought this one, because this was pretty cool. Here's one of my where is it? Screen? I guess it would be this one. So let's see here. Can you guys see my screen? Can you guys see my screen still?
We can see your screen, but the slide, I don't know if you're trying to pull up your HUD statement. We don't see that.
All right, let me see if you can see it now. Can you see
Yeah,
my?
we're doing good on time. We still have about 10 minutes for the presentation.
All right, cool.
Oh, there we go. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Yep, see it now.
So, oh, wait, wrong one. My bad. I had a title wrong. That's very late. So this one here. Okay. Oh, I had it wrong. So let's go back to this. So this one I did with subject to and hybrid, right? This one here, can you see this one? It says Oak Terrace.
We see the 136 Oak Terrace.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so this is the one that I just closed on the other day, which is actually yesterday. So that HUD statement I thought I had the other one, but I guess I accidentally titled it wrong. So as you can see here, here's the HUD statement.
So the HUD statement we're looking at is under the 515 Vale Loop. Did you want us to see the 136 Oak Terrace?
Yeah. How about this
Here.
one?
Yep, there we go.
Is that
Try.
136 up there?
Yes.
That's weird. I don't know why I'm just looking at the wrong one. But anyways, you can see I bought it for 130,000. And here's what's really cool. When you scroll down here, due to borrower, how much money did I got paid to buy this house? $7,447. Due to borrower, right? My seller got, I paid him, and he got 128,000. I got 7,000 because I used private money. I used private money. See, I had a loan for 140,000. So we always get money back at closing. Sometimes, not all the time. This one here, Vail, is this Vail Loop?
Mm. That one looks like the Oak Terrace one. Yeah, I think maybe just the labeling got
How about this one?
this. That one says 136 Oak Terrace.
And this one?
That also says 136 Oak Terrace.
Yeah,
So
it's
I
the
think
same
Okay.
it's just
document, but
spelling.
different titles.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah, yeah, it's
All
just
right.
the title labeling on the file.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so you see how on that one I was able to get cash back at closing because I used creative financing. I used private money. And the other one, the Veil Loop, the one that I wanted to show you was using, which I thought was this one here. I have two labeled HUDs. I don't know why it doesn't open it. The one with subject to, I bought it subject to the existing note, and then I did um, private money in second position. So when you're doing it creatively, you can stack them. You can do subject to, you can do private money, you can do cash, you can do private money. There's multiple ways to buy it if you know, structure the deal correctly. And at the same time, you want to make sure that you're buying at a deep discount because if you're not, then if there's not a lot of equity in the deal, then it's going to be harder to structure the deal creatively. So when you're buying at deep discounts, you'll have more equity, you have more room to bring in a private lender or do other creative things. There you go. Yep, and that was it. As you can see, I'm not that good with the slides here.
All good.
There
And
you go. Q&A. There you go.
oh, good job.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I appreciate you sharing all that, Willie. So I what is the QR code for contact info? So if people
I guess. Yeah.
want to reach out to you directly, they could scan here. All right, awesome. Okay, well with that, I think what we'll do is we'll go ahead, Willie, unless there's anything you want to Q&A.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask.
All right.
I'm gladly ask it. I
Awesome.
went over it kind of quick because I didn't want to go too deep into the weeds.
Yeah, no, what's great is that you gave a good overview, right, of the different creative strategies, and you gave examples of deals that you're actively doing today, and like you just said, you just closed on one yesterday, and the fact that you're willing to share the HUD statement, I think that's incredibly valuable because what most people, you could talk the concept, right, but in order to make that concept come to fruition, there's administrative paperwork, right? There's legal documents that need to follow that. As you pointed out, is those are when you said the instruments to mitigate risk, those are those instruments, right? And so most people don't get to see that until they actually do a deal. So if you are someone here today where you're like, okay, I get that there's all these different strategies and there's all these ways, and you talked about how you like to hybrid them. You know, but if you just chose one and you wanted to follow through and take next steps, it's great to be able to see a live example of what those documentation could look like for you. So thank you so much, Willie, for being willing to share that. And so can everyone see my slide? So I wanted to make sure that you guys, Willie gave you his QR code, so hopefully you got a chance to screenshot that to be able to connect with him directly. But also here, if you didn't catch that one, his email's on here, his website, so that way you guys have means to be able to communicate with him directly outside of this. So now we'll go ahead and transition to the live Q&A session. I know people had been asking a whole bunch of questions, so I'm just going to start it from the top. And so the first question we got is from Dane, and it says, when you this is regarding the subject to strategy. So when you log into the seller's account, do you change the password or leave everything the same?
Normally I change it, but I also give it to them. And sometimes I don't actually. I take that back. I don't because I still have their passwords. What I do change is the contact information, like the mailing address and the email, the login email, and
Mhm.
phone numbers. So yeah, but the password, it can remain the same or you can change it because you want them to be able to at least go in there and have that peace of mind that it's being paid on time every time.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think the follow-on question to that is, you mentioned they get the code and then you get it from them, but are you able to completely take over their account?
Yes, yes. So yes and no. I'm considered an authorized party, an authorized third party representative. So that's one of the first forms we fill out during our due diligence period when we're under contract, or sometimes I also have it filled out at closing. They'll have a limited durable power of attorney is what we use. And that right there, most lenders, all lenders pretty much accept that, and I can do everything and anything with their account.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Willie. Dane, does that answer your question? Did you have any follow-on to that specific ask?
Nope, that answered it. Thanks.
Yeah, all good stuff. All right, and I'll just share because so my personal experience, I've done two subject to deals, and it was very similar to Willie's situation where what we did was we agreed for account online banking access that we just created a separate standalone username and password, and it was just agreed that that was what we would use, and both parties had access to that, and it was never an issue, and we had this type of arrangement and relationship for like 10 years, and it was just fine.
Mhm.
All right. So moving on. Next question is from Philip. Philip asks, what are typical rates of return established when working with private money?
Well, I pay my private lenders 8 to 10% annualized. So that's, 8% on first position mortgage, larger amounts, 10% for smaller amounts.
How would you define smaller versus larger? Like what would be considered a small amount versus a large amount?
So the smaller amounts are usually under 100,000, depending on the property too, so it depends on the property, but usually under 100,000 would be a smaller amount. And that's most of the time, 10%. However, we do have, I'm doing one right now it's only going to be a year and it's a fix and flip. So
Mm.
that's 140,000 and that's 10%. Uh, so if it's shorter terms, then it'll probably be, 10% because I could be in and out quicker. But if it's going to be like a 5 year, they just want to sit back and collect interest for 5 years, then yeah, it'll be 8%.
I would ask, so when you say large amount, what would you say is the largest amount of money you borrowed using private money?
Right now we have well, it's not one large one because I have a private lender. She has 360,000 with us, but it's across 3 properties, 4 properties. She'll have 30 on one property, 70 on another. She did this one that I'm in with her IRA. She did 120. Then Oak Terrace, we did that. I just showed you the HUD. She did that one with CD money or whatever liquid cash they had, and that was 140,000. So she has the most with us. One of our other private lenders, they're looking at doing close to 1 million, but it's not going to be all at once because I'm not buying commercial buildings or multifamilies, crazy stuff like that. I'm just doing one-offs where I can put, 100 here, 500 here, 200 here, 300 like that.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you sharing all that, Willie. Philip, did you have any follow-on questions with that topic for Willie, or did he answer it for you?
I think you answered them pretty well. Thank you.
Yeah, no
I
problem.
think just to add to that one question I get with the annualized return, Willie, can you explain so like especially for like if it's less than a year, how do you
Right.
calculate that?
Yeah, if it's less than a year, then so for example, I'm doing one right now. He's a repeat private lender, actually. He just wired over 50,000 to my closing agent for closing on Monday. And he's doing 50,000 and he was used to paying, he did a whole year where I was paying him 10%, which comes out to $416.67. because if you take 50,000 times 10% gives you 5,000 a year, right? Divide that by 12 comes to 416.67. He did a whole year. Now he's got his money sitting there doing nothing now. So he's like, hey, can we do like shorter? I was like, yeah, but it's going to be less interest because it's still 10%, but you're not going to get the full year if you do it shorter. So we're doing 9 months now. So now he's going to get 9 months. For 9 months, he's going to get $416.67, which is a whole lot better than leaving it in the CD where he had it before.
I'm glad you foot stopped on that, Willie, because so when people ask, well, why would someone who has money make it private money versus sitting in the bank? And Willie just highlighted that is, I don't know what the current interest rate is today. If you would have that money, like even in a savings account or even a CD or even a money market account, odds are you're not going to get that 8% or 10% on your money. And that's why people who do have that kind of cash want to use private money, because they know that they can get a much higher rate of return compared to traditional options.
And also to add to that, they want something more secure than if they put it in stocks or in crypto and all these other places. It's volatile. So they put it in the bank because that's the most stable, concerned thing they can do, right? Conservative thing they can do. But we're also just as conservative. Private money is just as conservative and safe because it's a collateralized loan. They have recourse.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving on to Whitney's question. Whitney asked, how do you find all these deals? What are your main strategies?
Yeah, awesome. I did have a slide on tools and resources, but I didn't hide it. I didn't show it because I did it for a different presentation. So I would say there's so many ways to find deals. Number one, I don't buy anything on market, MLS, realtor.com, none of that stuff. It's all referrals or you pay per lead. We put out bandit signs. This last house that we bought, we just closed on the one on Oak Terrace, 136 Oak Terrace. That was a bandit sign that we put out. And the guy called me and I was like, yeah, sure, boom. That was the easiest one that we got. The other one that we're closing next week, that was a pay per lead. But we spent a lot of money on that. We spent like $7,000 and that's low, $7,000 in 3 months. And we finally closing it now. I've had that property under contract since October. Then it fell out of contract, but I kept keeping in touch with the lady and she reached back out and was like, yeah, let's do it. So it's a lot of follow up and staying in front of people. And we have pre-foreclosures. We do pre-foreclosure mailings. We mail to people. We call people. So we have inbound marketing and outbound marketing. So inbound is going to be people calling you from paper leads, or outbound where you're calling them or you're mailing to them.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Whitney, did you have any follow-on questions to that, or?
No, thank you for sharing, Willie. Sounds like a lot of work.
It is not easy.
Yeah.
It is. And expensive too.
But you get the results, and I think that's what matters, right? Like you make the investment, put in the time, you do the work, and in the end, you still get those results, and so it makes it worthwhile.
Yeah.
I'll add a strategy that I use, especially being overseas. I don't have the time like Willie to, market and things like that, and I'm not physically there to put out signs. So what I do is I get on wholesaler list, and also sites like Investor Lift or New Western. They send me deals all the time, and I can analyze and if I want to take one down, I just do it that way. So for people living overseas, that's probably an easier way to do it as well.
Yeah, and also, and to add to that, talk to people in the States, get in all those Facebook groups where investors are at, wholesaler groups. There's tons of opportunities in there.
Good stuff. All right, well, Dane, it looks like you have another question here. I think it's regard to private money. So the question is, when you raise funds, do you raise holding cost as well, or just enough to purchase the property?
No, yeah, so great question. We raised, that's why I had money coming back at closing. So we raised enough to purchase and rehab. So purchase, rehab, holding costs. However, the very most important thing to know is that we do not allow our private lenders to loan us more than 75% of the after repair value. So for example, that property, 136 Oak Terrace, I got $7,000 back, right? And I got another $50,000 coming in, but total loan to value is under 75%. So our private lenders are protected that once we fix that house up and it's ready to be sold, if I can't sell it at 250, if I gotta slash the price to 200, they'll still be able to be repaid. I may not get anything or may not get much, but they'll be paid.
I'm curious, how did you get to that less than 75%? Was that just trial and error learning, or kind of like an industry standard? Why it's 75%, not 60 or anything like that? Like what drove that?
Well, it's because my mentor teaches that. That's what my mentor does is 5%. He's the private money authority. He
Yeah.
literally wrote the book on it, and his name is Jay Connor. So if you ever get a chance, please listen to his podcast called Raising Private Money. He teaches you how to raise private money the correct way. And 75% is a good rule of thumb because, housing prices aren't going to drop by 25% overnight. They'll
Mhm.
take years for it to drop 25%. So that's why it's pretty conservative. And you can protect your private lenders' funds.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm gonna tell. I want to foot stop on that for this community because, so knowing that is a significant nugget for you to take away. Know that, right? When, especially if you're starting for the first time, you have to ask yourself, like, where is that range? And some people will literally go through trial and error, do however many deals before they figure out where that sweet spot is. And Willie today just shared with you something that he got from his mentor, who he said is an industry standard, or is a leader in this industry. So knowing now that number, that sweet spot there is 75%. So you guys should note that, write that down, highlight it, whatever you need to do, so that if you want to get into private money and you want to figure out what those numbers look like, he just delivered it to you on a silver platter. So good stuff. Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Next question. Whitney asks, what security measures do you put in place to keep the bank from calling a due on sale clause?
Yeah, excellent question. Excellent question. And that's a valid concern a lot of folks have, but in all actualities, banks aren't in the business of calling the loan due because it's going to cost them time and money if you decide to default, and they're going to lose a lot of money because they got to hire an attorney. And that's one reason. But what security measures we put in? We put all our properties in a land trust. So when you look up all of our properties that we own, and in Florida, everything's public record. You can see the price, how much you paid, and who bought it. My property will say the land trust, and it'll say $100. There's no sale price because we hide the sale price and we do it all in the trust. So it's for privacy, and they can't call the due on sale because we have the land trust as the first beneficiary of the land trust is the original seller. Then the seller does a assignment quit claim to my entity. So we put multiple layers into the documentation to make that pretty difficult to happen. And again, I do this all with my attorney, who's oh my gosh, she's the best when it comes to creative financing. And she's actually a private lender herself. She started off in the late 90s or late 80s as a foreclosure attorney. So she knows very, very well about what legal documentations and instruments to do. So yeah, we put them in land trusts. That helps.
If I could ask, land trust, what state do you file it? Do you do it in the state of Florida because that's where most of your deals are?
Yeah, every state has their own rules, but in Florida, land trust is like ironclad. Let me tell you a quick story. Okay, not even a quick story, but did you know that Walt Disney, when he purchased all the land in Orlando, Florida, to build what is now Disney World, he bought all that property in a land trust. Because when he was in California and he came over to buy up all this property in Florida, he didn't want nobody to know that Walt Disney from California is buying up all the land because guess what? Everybody would have started jacking up the prices on him. So he put them all in a land trust. So land trust is for just privacy. And Florida is the best state to do land trusts in. People talk about LLCs and entities, all that stuff. LLCs are you can get punctured, and LLCs you can get sued on easily.
Mm.
So, but land trust is a lot harder.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Another great nugget. Curious, your attorney, is she in Florida as well?
Yeah, I have two attorneys. Andrea, she's in Central Florida, so she does all my land trusts and promissory and what is it, lender documents, loan documents. And she's also a broker, so she does real estate transactions herself. And then I have my other attorney here in Northwest Florida that does all my closings and all my business entity stuff. And he's licensed in Georgia and Alabama. So if any of you need help in Georgia, Alabama, or Florida, I got you covered.
Awesome. All good stuff. Great resources. Anyone have any additional questions on that line? All right, moving on to Ari's question. So Ari asked, once you identify a potential deal, how do you approach the seller to present creative terms or seller financing? And what language framing tends to work best?
Great question. Great question. And that was one that I had challenge with too. And I just had a call with the seller today on this. So basically, when we're talking to them, first I try to find out the situation, build rapport with the seller, find out, what's going on. And I tell them, hey, look, we buy properties cash for fast. We buy properties fast for cash, and we buy them several different ways. So I'm going to ask you a few questions to see what's best for you and your situation. And then while I started asking questions about the mortgage, the principal and interest, the taxes, insurance, all that stuff to see if it's even a good subject too, I'll say one of the ways that we buy houses is where we take over all your debt. We take over all your problems on the property, the mortgages, any payments to the mortgage. We take care of all of that, and you can walk away from the house. You'll sign the house over. We'll put in all the legal protections in place, and you'll be able to see that those mortgage payments are being made. And once you tell them that and you word it right and just finagle it in there, and you could tell them, you could even get on the call with my attorney. My attorney will walk you through it. And I've had two sellers talk to my attorney. And once they talk to the attorney and they tell you all this stuff, they're like, hey, yeah, this is good. Here's another thing I tell them. I'm like, look, I'm going to pay you X amount of dollars cash. If I don't pay you and I default, the property is yours. Because that's another thing that we put in our documentation. It's called assignment. In the case of a default, I forgot the name of the word, but we put it in this: if I default for 30 days, guess what? The house reverts back to them. No foreclosure, no nothing. It's all done in documentation that my attorney does, where it just goes right back to them. Then I lost all that money that I gave them because now the house is theirs again. So really, we both have a lot of skin in the game and things to lose. And I'm an investor. They look me up on Google. They see. I'm like, look, I'm here. You know where I'm at. I know where, you can reach me anytime. So it's just all about establishing the relationship with people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
And Ari, you added, how do you typically structure these deals financially? Like what kind of down payment, interest rate, terms do you aim for? How do you make sure it's a win-win?
Yeah. So right now, for the seller that called me, she has a house here. She's, in a military town. So her principal and interest payment's good. And we calculated that she would probably net cash walk away with, if she were to sell it the traditional route, 90,000 maybe. But she has to split that with her ex-husband. And also the house is now rented and she can't really sell it while it's rented because she's concerned. She doesn't want to kick the people out, blah, 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 blah. So I tell her, I was like, look, well, talk to your husband, find out how much you need to walk away with, and we'll reverse engineer it. We reverse engineer it. So we don't talk about down payment. There is no down payment because I'm buying the house subject to, or I'm bringing in private money to cover that down payment. So, as far as interest rate, the interest rate is, she has a 3.1% interest rate on that property. So that'll be mine, you know? So I'm paying that.
It's a
So,
great interest rate.
yeah, we've got a couple of those. This one right here is a 3%. The one in, I've got a couple of 2.5% and some 3%.
Awesome. Good
Yeah.
stuff. Ari, did you have any additional onto that line, or I can move on?
No, I guess my next question before I posted it was like, what would you say to somebody that's trying to get on with off market deals, like trying to connect with people that are in wholesalers? What would you caution them? What would be your like, hey,
Hmm.
look for these and that, or stay away
Hmm.
from that?
Yeah, I would caution them if they're talking to wholesalers and looking for off market deals, verify the numbers. You know, if they say it's worth this, make sure you verify the numbers as well. And talk to maybe local realtors in that area, or do run your own comps on Zillow or wherever you do, you know. And so yeah, definitely do your own due diligence, because realtors, wholesalers, a lot of the ones that I see coming across that I get presented, they don't work. They wouldn't work for me. And if they don't work for me, I'd say, Ari, don't do it. You know what I mean? Or I'd say, Anna, Dane,
Yeah.
Philip, don't do it. You know, if it doesn't work for me, because there's not enough meat on the bones, or whatever the case may be. So you just have to
Yeah.
make sure it is a deal. That's it.
Yeah, thank you. Awesome,
Yeah.
thank you.
Right,
Yeah, that's a good point. Let me add to that, because yeah, so for the wholesalers, they always come up with the repair costs and all that stuff. The only number I take from them is the purchase price. Every other number I go find myself or talk to people
Exactly.
in the area.
Oh yeah, that's a great point. Like, so which one should what should be your foundational number, and then build from there. So no, that's great advice. Thanks, Dane.
Yeah.
All right, Z has a question. So her question is, have you ever used a business credit card to fund any of the properties, specifically for a down payment?
No, but I've used business credit cards for like rehab and stuff. So yeah, I guess not to fund the down payment, because that'd be kind of difficult unless you have really, really good credit and you get a $50,000, $30,000 line of credit card that you can do cash advance, then okay, but you can't go to closing with a credit card and swipe,
Yeah.
you know, it'd have to be cash. And most of the time when you're doing a down payment, even with some hard money lenders, they want that if it's 10% down and it's 20,000 to close, you know, your closing costs and all that other stuff, then they want that to come from your account. You can't just have somebody else pay it. It has got to come to your account. So it just depends on the lender and the situation. But no, I've never done with a credit card, so I can't say.
So Z, did you have a follow on to that answer or that response?
No, I didn't. Thank you. I've just heard of like cash advances, so I was wondering if you tapped into that before.
Yeah, if it's a cash advance, then if you can get that much of a cash advance, that's great. You can use that as a down payment. Yes, you can. Absolutely. But then you got to also calculate how much that money is going to cost you,
Right.
because you're going to be paying interest on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and in my experience, and I don't know if anyone else wants to input on this, but I think most cash advances are usually 2 digits, right? Like usually 20% and above. So yeah, and that's a hefty cost to factor in.
Right.
So we have Eric with a question. He says, lessons learned finding off-market deals. So I know we've
Okay.
talked about a few of them already. One of them, like you mentioned, just look at the purchase price as your foundational number, and then do your due diligence.
Oh, yeah.
What else?
Oh, biggest lesson learned on off-market deals is get an inspection.
Mm,
I've had it come back to hit me, I would say 2 times big, that are sticking out. One is that one of the houses I showed you on that that I recently showed you, and the other one is a house that's right in the same neighborhood that I'm looking at possibly $20,000 to $25,000 in termite damage. I did get an inspection on the home, but I didn't get a termite inspection. I just got a regular homeowner's insurance inspection. And I looked through the inspection today. I was looking through it, and I saw the moisture where the inspector pointed out in the garage. There was some moisture stain, what looked to be like a moisture stain. So that should have been, I should have looked more into that and say, hey, maybe I should get this checked out. But I didn't, because this house was a beautiful 2014 built home. The seller was awesome. The house, me and my wife walked in the house and we were like, oh my God, is this really, he really wants to sell us his house for what? And he was a subject too. And we put none of our own money. We brought in private money in second position, but it's just been problem after problem. Like if I were, I'll post some pictures on my social media of this house and you guys are going to be probably shocked when you see the termite damage that it's done. So I'm going to be out probably $20,000, $30,000, but guess what? My private lenders are still getting paid because the bank always gets paid no matter what's happening. So that's a hard lesson learned on an off market. I would say make sure you get a seller's disclosure as well. Seller's disclosure, get that. And for those that don't know, that's just the documentation where the seller writes a couple of questions. They'll ask questions. Each state is different, so I don't know about other states, but in Florida, I ask you questions like termite damage, plumbing, foundation issues, any known this, known that. If you knew anything, it's called a disclosure. Highly recommend you do that. Even if it's off market, you can still do that. You don't need a realtor to do it. You can just get the form and have them do it. Yeah, so those would be my two biggest ones is inspect.
I would add, for the state of Colorado, so if any of you on this call have properties in Colorado, a big one for seller disclosure is radon testing because of the quality of the soil. But to Will's point, it's every state is different because every state has nuances, right? That things are specific to their market. So yeah, in the state of Colorado, radon testing is a big one. And I not only do I have to do that for properties for selling, but even for renting. When as a landlord, if I have tenants, I have to sign landlord disclosures on those types of things.
Yeah, so highly recommend. I'll be honest with you guys, it's a lot of stuff because I mean I'm not like been doing this for 20, 30 years or anything like that, but you learn lots of hard lessons along the way. And it's to the point where, you know, my contractor is like scared for me with this house that we're doing. And I told him, I was like, look, it is what it is. I mean, yeah, we're going to pay, even if I'm out $20,000, $30,000, we're about to do a flip, 2 flips that potentially will net good money on. So that $20,000, $30,000 expense is going to be a write-off to offset my taxes on the flip because they're going to get killed on capital gains on flips. But I'm going to have a huge expense on this rental property that I can deduct. So at the end of the day, it's just part of the business. You lose here, you win there, you lose here, you win there. You just got to keep going.
Yeah, no, that's great advice.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and perspective. So Dane shared, so he wanted to add that that rule of 75% for the private money is a good, and he shared in the chat why he believes that. So if you guys see that, that's a good note as well. And then I think we're running out of time here, so we have room for just one last question. And so we'll take Z's question here, and it's a private money follow-up question. Her question is, do you raise capital first or find a deal? And if a person tells you they want to invest, but you don't have a deal, how can you legitimize it? And should you keep their capital in a high yield savings account?
No, I don't. Yeah, we raise private money first. I always raise private money first, and they're not giving me money. They're not doing anything like that. I'm not holding their money. And they just tell me how much they want to invest. They give me a verbal pledge, like, hey, I got 100. Hey, I got 50. Hey, I got 30. All right, cool. Let me see what I got in the pipeline, and I'll throw it out there. And then I'll present it. Occasionally, I'll throw it out to the Okinawa group. Hey, guys, I got this opportunity coming up. You know, it's out there. That's it. If somebody wants it, this is what I'm doing. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not, because somebody's already taken it. So we always have deals coming in. So yeah, we definitely put it to work. Like right now, I got a guy that we know. in Okinawa, they've got some money moved over to an IRA already. So he just sent me the message, hey, it's in Inspira. And so I talked to my rep. She's like, yeah, it's ready to go. I was like, hey, is it ready to go? Cool, it's ready to go. All right. Now I got to see what deals we have in the pipeline, what properties we have where we can collateralize his money in a safe position. Because I can't just put his money up against a house and then it's over leveraged, because that's risky, that I won't be able to pay him back, or I'm going to lose money if I have to pay him back, you know? So that's why I have to see what properties we have coming up. So yeah, I always raise the money first. They tell me how much they got to get. Then I go out and find the deal to fit that.
All right, good stuff. See, thank you for that question, Willie. Thank you for being so gracious with all the shares here. So real quick, we actually have a poll that Way's gonna throw on into the group right now. The poll is to ask, because Willie shared all these different strategies. I think he said it had 7 on there. And so, you know, and one of the things Willie and I talked about before doing this call was you can literally take any single one of these strategies and do a 30-minute presentation on them, right? And in terms of going through the eaches. So we would like to know, based on what you saw today, kind of highlights and just did some digging of these, which would you like to learn more about? And so the question just popped up, so feel free to just add which ones you would like to learn more about in terms of how it works. And then we'll close it out. And so this gives us feedback so we know how to when we're setting up future events, we can literally take any one of these topics and just do a deep dive, right? Like really go from an A to Z. And so your feedback today on this poll will help us figure out which one we should start with first. And then so I'll give you, let's do just another few seconds, maybe 15 seconds on this to get the feedback, and then we'll start doing some closing activities here. So, and again, you don't have to choose just one. Any one of these that you have interest. I mean, you could select all of them. But again, the goal is to narrow down which one should we start with first. So when we select the next Zoom event and we want to focus on creative financing strategies, we'll make it narrow where we talk about just one strategy and go from A to Z. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and close out the poll now. Thank you guys for your input. Do I have to close out the poll, or do I have to end it, or do we just close that out?
I can end it.
Okay, go for it.
Let me share the results.
Oh, nice. Oh, live results. I love it. All right, so it looks like retirement funds and private money. Okay, good stuff. So great feedback. Again, guys, thank you all for sharing that. We'll definitely note this. At the end, we normally do an after action review on all our events. And so we'll note retirement funds and private money are the 2 topics to jump on. So good. I would also ask, if, I think at the end of this call, you'll get another survey or maybe in an email. But the bottom line is, you know, we don't just come up with these events just to come up with them. Like we base it, we listen to what you guys want, and we do our best to source the fitting guest speaker for these topics. And so, you know, we're very much interested on continually to improve and add value to these types of events. And so your feedback will help us with that. So please take the time to do that. All right, just to let everybody know, we actually do this every other month. And so you can see that we did the one today for May 17, but we have 2 more programs, 2 more events programmed for the rest of the year. So the next one will be in July. So note that July 12th and then October 18. For the one in July, we're actually going to bring in our guest speakers from IKEA Mart. So they've actually purchased real estate in Japan. Those IKEA, so those abandoned homes. And last year they were just in the initial stages. And so we wanted to bring them back this year because it would have been 1 year. Their goal was to turn their properties into a short-term rental or midterm rental. So bringing them back on this next one, we'll be able to hear what they've been able to do. All right. And oh, just to let you guys know too, so all of us are here virtually, right? But one of the things that we like to do is to be able to still meet with people in person. And so One of the ways that we do that is through a summit. So next year, so just note the date. We don't have a lot of details yet because we're still in early stages of planning, but we do have a date. April 3rd and 4th, we do have a venue. It'll be at the Hyatt Regency Guam. And so stay tuned for further details as we develop them. All right, Whitney, over to you. Whitney, did I lose you? Oh, you're on mute. Whitney, you're on mute.
Sorry, guys, got all the kids here home from school, so
Oh,
trying to block that out. I can't see the slides right now, but if you are on social media, please follow all our channels. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. All of our little tags handle should be showing there. We have a YouTube where we post all these recordings, so I will be sending that out probably within a week. The recording of this will post on there, so you can send it to your friends, whoever, you can rewatch it. All our post recordings are like all our previous ones from other events are up there, so there's lots of good information. Go ahead and scroll through that. That's the Asia Pacific Investor Network on YouTube, and then our email if you need to touch base with us.
All right, good stuff. And Whitney, if you can, just go ahead and throw those links on these chats so people can easily click on them as well. And so, you know, to be able to put on these events, it actually is quite a coordinated effort, and it's all the volunteers. So everyone here that you see the virtual packet, we're all volunteers on this. And we do that because we're just absolutely passionate about connecting with people who share our interest in real estate investing. And we know that we're not going to be the experts in any one thing, but if we could come together as a community, it ends up just, you know, leading to some really incredible possibilities. And so if you liked what we've done today and you want to be a part of that community of volunteers that host this, here are some of the areas that we do have some openings. So if you happen to know any people in those specific locations, like Philip, I see that you're over in Yokosuka, so I don't know if you already know Ritarsha, if she was the one who shared this event with you, but Ritarsha is actually relocating. She's moving, PCSing to Hawaii, and so we actually will have an opening up there soon. So if you like what we did today and you want to be a part, let us know. We're happy to share those details. All right. And so, you know, I just want to thank everybody. I know we're just a minute over too. You know, there's lots of things that you'd be doing with your time on a Friday afternoon, evening, or Saturday morning. But you guys chose to be here. And because of you, this was an incredible event. Willie, you know, shout out to you again. You just gave so many great nuggets. I hope all of you had a chance to take lots of notes. I know I did, and I've been doing some stuff, but I'll tell you, there's still some good stuff that Willie shared today that I just kind of highlighted. So again, huge shout out to all of you for taking time today. The team, again, this wouldn't be possible without you. So everyone with that virtual background, kudos to you. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen here. Actually, if anyone wants to, we'll stop the recording. And if Willie, if you're still available, we could continue on for a few more minutes. Usually we'll stay on for another 15-30 if anyone wants to talk more stuff. So, because I know we limit it to 30 minutes, it's just because we want to be, you know, respectful of everybody's time. But I tell you what, we stayed up to the minute for the Q&A, and it's because it's just really good stuff. So, Wei, if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and turn off the recording.
Yeah, I'm
It'll-
trying to, but I don't think it's
Oh.
turning off.
It won't turn off. Okay.
Yeah, and then thank you guys. Honestly, seriously, thank you for allowing me to present and share. I may have gone through it quickly or whatever. Honestly, the best part of it is the Q&A. I love the questions and I love sharing, and I'll tell you everything I know, you know, what I do or how I do it. You know, I've learned a lot throughout the years, and I'm still learning and growing. So glad to share.
Yeah, you know, you said 2015 was really where you got into it, and you know, even though you said, oh, you know, I haven't been doing it for decades, but you've done volume, right? And so you've just done a lot of action and activity, and through those activities you've learned all these lessons, and each time you take those lessons and it just makes you that much smarter and more efficient with these deals, to the point where you're now able to hybrid, right, all these different strategies and to do one deal. And so that is just really awesome to see.
Yeah. And honestly, I have a team that helps me, and I surround myself with the people, and I'm in a mastermind with my mentor, and And it is very, 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 very expensive. But I'll tell you what, since I've joined that, you know, my mentor and my mastermind, my business has skyrocketed because I just, you know, we do a lot of sharing, and we do or just learn so much, and they give you that confidence and, you know, all these things that